The day my aunt stole my dreams started like any other Sunday family dinner. If I'd known what was coming, I would have guarded my recipe book with my life instead of leaving it in my bag by the coat rack. I'm Aurora, and cooking isn't just my passion, it's the only thing that's ever made sense to me. That evening, I was sharing my latest creation with the family, a rosemary-infused mushroom risotto that had taken months to perfect. "This is incredible," my cousin said between mouthfuls. "How do you make it so creamy without using cream?" Before I could answer, Aunt Melanie cut in. "Oh, please, any decent chef can make risotto. It's hardly revolutionary." She pushed her plate away, barely touched. I felt my cheeks burn but kept my smile fixed in place. This was typical Melanie, the aunt who'd taught me to bake cookies when I was 6, now turned into someone I barely recognized. Actually, Nash, my best friend and marketing guru, spoke up. "Aurora's been developing these recipes for her cafe concept, the one she's planning to open downtown." Melanie's head snapped up. "A cafe? Don't be ridiculous. Do you know how many restaurants fail in their first year?" "I've done my research," I said, straightening my spine. "I've got unique recipes, a solid business plan." "Sweetheart," Melanie interrupted, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You're a good home cook, but running a restaurant? That's a whole different world." The conversation moved on, but Melanie's eyes kept drifting to my bag, where my leather-bound recipe book peeked out. The book contained everything: my notes, techniques, the results of countless late-night experiments, my entire culinary journey. After dinner, I helped with dishes while everyone else migrated to the living room. When I finally went to collect my things, my stomach dropped. The book was gone. "Looking for something?" Melanie asked innocently from the doorway. I searched my bag again. "My recipe book. I could have sworn I left it right here." "Oh, you must have misplaced it," she said, examining her manicure. "You know how forgetful you can be." That night, I tossed and turned, replaying every moment, the way Melanie had dismissed my cafe dreams, her lingering looks at my bag, the satisfied smirk as I searched for my book. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Nash. "Check Melanie's social media, now." There it was, a perfectly staged photo of coffee cups and pastries, with the caption, "Big news, excited to announce the opening of my very own cafe. Can't wait to share my original recipes with all of you. Chef Life, ye new venture." I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. But instead of anger, a strange calm washed over me. Because what Aunt Melanie didn't know was that I'd been expecting something like this. And I had a plan. "You're telling me you wanted her to steal your recipes?" Nash leaned forward across my kitchen counter, his coffee forgotten. "That's either brilliant or crazy." I pulled out a second recipe book from my cabinet, the real one, bound in dark blue leather. Those recipes she took, they're all decoys, good enough to seem legitimate, but missing key elements that make them special. "You devious little genius." Nash's face broke into a grin. "But why not just confront her?" "Because—" I was interrupted by my phone buzzing. Another text from Melanie. "Grand opening next Saturday. As my favorite niece, you simply must attend." I showed Nash the message and he whistled. The nerve of this woman. "I'll be there," I said, already typing my reply. "With bells on." Hallie burst through my apartment door, still wearing her pastry chef's whites. "Tell me we're not actually supporting that snake?" "We're going to watch her serve mediocre food to half the food critics in the city," I said, sliding her a cup of coffee. "The recipes she stole? The risotto is missing the overnight mushroom stock. The lemon tart has no cardamom. The signature coffee blend? Regular beans with none of the special roasting technique." "You're going to let her fail on her own," Hallie said slowly, understanding dawning on her face. "While we," Nash added, pulling out his laptop, Quietly prepare for Aurora's Real Cafe launch. I've been scouting locations. There's a perfect spot 3 blocks from where Melanie's opening. Saturday arrived, and Melanie's cafe was packed. String lights twinkled overhead, and the smell of coffee filled the air. She'd even hired a photographer to capture her triumph. Aurora! Melanie air kissed my cheeks. What do you think? Everything I envisioned and more. I watched as servers carried out plates of my altered recipes. It's certainly something, Aunt Melanie. A food blogger at the next table took a bite of the mushroom risotto and frowned. It's fine, but nothing special. Just wait until they try the lemon tart, Hallie whispered in my ear. Sure enough, the desserts received the same lukewarm response. I could see Melanie's smile becoming strained as she overheard the murmured conversations. I don't understand, she hissed to her business partner, Leo. These recipes were perfect when I tested them. Leo looked worried. The food critics aren't impressed, Mel. This isn't the revolutionary cuisine you promised. I sipped my mediocre coffee, watching my aunt's dream launch crumble in real time. Part of me felt guilty, but then I remembered her smirk when my recipe book went missing. Ready to head out? Nash asked, checking his watch. We've got that meeting with the realtor tomorrow morning. I nodded, standing to leave. My real journey was just beginning, and I had work to do. The mushrooms need another hour, I called out to Hallie across our test kitchen. We'd rented a small commercial space to perfect our menu before the cafe opening. The air was thick with the aroma of roasting coffee beans and simmering stock. Well, hurry up, Hallie said, piping delicate rosettes onto her latest creation. Because guess who just walked into your aunt's cafe? I peered at her phone screen, showing a local food blog's live update. Jarrett Hamilton, the food critic. The very same. This should be interesting. Nash burst through the door, clutching his tablet. Have you seen the reviews coming in for Melanie's place? Listen to this. Promising concept, disappointing execution. The risotto lacks depth, the coffee is forgettable, and the pastries are adequate. Adequate? Hallie clutched her chest in mock horror. That's food critic speak for terrible. My phone buzzed. A text from Melanie. Need to talk. Now. Don't go, Nash warned. It's a trap. But 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from my aunt in her half-empty cafe. The afternoon sun highlighted the worry lines around her eyes. The recipes aren't working, she said, pushing a plate of risotto toward me. Something's missing. You must know what it is. I took a small bite. Seems fine to me. Fine isn't good enough. Melanie slammed her hand on the table, making the silverware jump. I've invested everything in this place, my savings, my reputation. Maybe you should have thought of that before stealing my recipe book, I said quietly. Her face went pale. You knew. Of course I knew. I watched you take it. Before she could respond, the cafe door chimed. Jarrett Hamilton walked in, his notorious red notebook in hand. Melanie practically leapt from her seat. Mr. Hamilton, what an honor. Save it. He cut her off, settling at a nearby table. I'm here to work. I slipped out while Melanie fussed over Jarrett's order. Back at our test kitchen, I found Nash and Hallie hovering over the coffee roaster. I think we've got it, Nash said, inhaling deeply. The perfect blend of beans, roasted exactly the way you specified. I sampled the coffee, letting the complex flavors roll over my tongue. This is it. This is what's going into Aurora's. Speaking of which, Hallie slid a folder across the counter. The lease is ready to sign. That corner location we wanted, it's ours if we want it. My hand shook slightly as I reached for the pen. This was really happening. My dream, built on authentic passion and real recipes, was about to come true. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This time from Nash's contact at the food blog. Jarrett Hamilton's review of Melanie's goes live tomorrow morning. You might want to see this. A culinary catastrophe masquerading as innovation. Nash read aloud from Jarrett's review. The establishment promises original recipes, but delivers nothing more than pale imitations of classic dishes. One wonders where these recipes truly originated. Hallie whistled. He didn't just criticize the food, he's questioning her integrity. I was about to respond when the test kitchen door flew open. Melanie stormed in, her face red with anger, waving her phone. You did this. You sabotaged me. I did nothing, I said calmly, continuing to plate the test dish I was working on. You're the one who stole my recipe book. Those recipes were garbage. She knocked the plate from my hands, sending it crashing to the floor. You set me up. Nash stepped between us. I think you should leave, Melanie. Oh, I get it now, she sneered, looking around our test kitchen. You're opening your own place, aren't you? Using the real recipes? The ones I spent years perfecting? Yes, I am. Melanie's laugh was bitter. Good luck with that. I still have connections in this town. One word from me would be professional suicide. Jarrett Hamilton's voice cut through the tension. He stood in the doorway, red notebook in hand. Especially after that stunt you pulled with the stolen recipes. We all froze. Jarrett walked in, casually picking up one of Hallie's fresh pastries. Excellent lamination, he noted, examining the croissant's layers. Much better than the dense specimens being served at your establishment, Melanie. How did you, Melanie sputtered, know about the theft? Please. He took a bite of the croissant. I've been in this business 30 years. I know authentic passion when I taste it. And your food? It's like reading a book with half the pages missing. I can explain, Melanie started. Save it for your investors. Jarrett cut her off. He turned to me. I caught the aroma of your mushroom stock from the street. Mind if I stay for a tasting? My heart raced. We'd be honored. Melanie stood there, watching as Jarrett settled in at our prep counter. Her face shifted from anger to fear as she realized the magnitude of what was happening. This isn't over, she hissed before storming out. Actually, Nash called after her, I think it is. For the next 2 hours, we served Jarrett our real menu. The properly prepared risotto, the correctly spiced pastries, the carefully roasted coffee. He took meticulous notes, asking detailed questions about techniques and ingredients. As he left, he paused at the door. When exactly are you opening? 2 weeks, I replied. He nodded, a slight smile playing at his lips. Expect me there. This city could use some authentic cuisine. After he left, Hallie grabbed my hands. Did that really just happen? It did, I said, still stunned. But something tells me Melanie isn't done fighting yet. She offered me how much? I nearly dropped the box of coffee cups I was unpacking. $50,000, Hallie said, gripping the counter of our nearly finished café. She cornered me in the parking lot last night, said she'd pay me to share your real recipes. Nash looked up from where he was installing the point-of-sale system. Please tell me you got that on video. Better. Hallie pulled out her phone and played a voice recording. Melanie's desperate voice filled the room. Name your price. Those recipes are worth nothing to Aurora anyway. She's just being stubborn. The bell above our door chimed, and Leo, Melanie's business partner, walked in. Dark circles under his eyes suggested he hadn't been sleeping well. We're not open yet, I started to say, but he held up his hands. I'm not here to cause trouble. I need to talk to you about Melanie. Nash moved closer to me protectively, but I nodded for Leo to continue. She's losing it, he said, running a hand through his hair. Our investors are pulling out after Jarrett's review. She's talking about hiring people to come here and cause problems on your opening night. She wouldn't dare, Hallie said. She's desperate. The bank's threatening to call our loan, and she's convinced your recipes are the only thing that can save her cafe. The front window suddenly rattled as something hit it. We rushed outside to find eggs splattered across the glass and Melanie standing there with an empty carton. "Happy opening!" she shouted, her voice shrill. Several passers-by stopped to stare. "Hope you're ready for what's coming." "Melanie, stop!" Leo grabbed her arm. "This isn't helping." "Let go of me." She wrenched away, mascara running down her cheeks. "She ruined everything. My cafe is failing because of her." "Your cafe is failing because you stole instead of creating," I said quietly, "because you thought shortcuts would be enough." "You don't understand," she sobbed. "I had to prove I could do it too, that I wasn't just the family failure anymore." "By stealing from your own niece?" Nash asked incredulously. More people were gathering now, phones out, recording everything. Leo tried again to lead Melanie away, but she shrugged him off. "I'll tell everyone," she threatened, "about how you tricked me with fake recipes, how you sabotaged your own aunt." "Go ahead," I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. "Tell them how you stole my recipe book, how you tried to bribe my chef, how you're out here throwing eggs at my window. I'm sure that'll help your reputation." Melanie's face crumpled as she finally realized the hole she dug for herself. Without another word, she turned and ran, leaving Leo standing there, looking apologetic. "Opening night is in 3 days," he warned. "Watch your backs." Opening night arrived with a line stretching around the block. Nash had orchestrated a brilliant social media campaign, and the drama with Melanie had only fueled public interest. "Security's in place," Nash reported, adjusting his earpiece. "No sign of Melanie yet." I surveyed our packed cafe, every table filled with excited customers, food bloggers, and critics. Jarrett sat in the corner, already sampling our signature mushroom risotto. "The first reviews are coming in on social media," Hallie called from the kitchen. "They're loving it." That's when the lights went out. Gasps and murmurs filled the darkness. Someone screamed as the sound of breaking glass came from the kitchen. "Nobody panic," I called out, using my phone's flashlight to navigate toward the circuit breaker. "We'll have this fixed in a minute." "Aurora!" Hallie's voice was urgent. "Someone's trying to get in through the back door." I rushed to the kitchen just as the emergency lights kicked in. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of Melanie's face, contorted with rage. She had a rock in her hand, ready to break another window. "Stop!" Leo appeared behind her, grabbing her arm. "This is insane." "Let go," she struggled. "I have to stop her." "Security's called the police," Nash said, appearing beside me. "They'll be here in 2 minutes." But we didn't need them. As Melanie raised the rock again, Leo spun her around. "Enough!" His voice boomed through the alley. "You're done, Melanie. I'm pulling my investment. The cafe is finished." "You can't." "I can and I am. Look at yourself. Breaking windows, cutting power. This isn't you." The rock fell from Melanie's hand. In the dim light, she looked suddenly old and very small. Inside, Nash had charmed the crowd, turning the blackout into an impromptu candlelit dining experience. The buzz of conversation and laughter had already resumed. "The risotto," Jarrett's voice carried across the room, "is absolutely transcendent by candlelight." Customers murmured in agreement, phones lighting up the darkness with photos of our candlelit dishes. Aurora's cafe was trending. The main lights flickered back on just as two police officers approached Melanie. Leo was already giving his statement, pointing to the broken window and the security footage on his phone. "I'm sorry," Melanie whispered as they led her away. I couldn't stand watching you succeed where I failed." I turned away, back to my cafe, my customers, my dream. Hallie was already plating more dishes, and Nash was orchestrating repairs for the window. Well, Nash said, checking his phone, your aunt just gave us the best marketing we could have asked for. The candlelit crisis is going viral. Sometimes, I replied, picking up a fresh plate of risotto, the best revenge is simply doing what you do best. The night wasn't over yet, and we had hungry customers to feed. You need to see this, Nash said, sliding his tablet across my desk 1 week after our dramatic opening. Jarrett's latest review filled the screen. Aurora's Cafe isn't just serving food, it's offering an experience in authenticity. In a city plagued by copycats and shortcuts, this establishment stands as a testament to genuine culinary craftsmanship. Keep reading, Nash urged, grinning. The recent controversy surrounding this cafe's opening, including attempted sabotage by a rival establishment, only serves to highlight the difference between earned success and stolen shortcuts. The door chimed, and Leo walked in, looking exhausted. Got a minute? I gestured to the chair across from me. What's wrong? Everything. He dropped a stack of papers on my desk. Health departments shut us down. Turns out Melanie was cutting corners everywhere, not just with the recipes. They found violations in food storage, preparation. That's not your fault, I said. No, but this is. He pointed to a financial statement. We're bankrupt. Melanie's been cooking the books as well as botching the recipes. She used investor money to pay off personal debts. Nash whistled. That's fraud. The police are involved now, Leo continued, but that's not why I'm here. He pulled out a familiar leather-bound book, my original recipe book. Found this in her office. Thought you might want it back. My hands trembled as I took it. Thank you. I should have known something was wrong when she couldn't explain her own recipes, Leo said, standing. You've built something real here, Aurora. Don't let anyone take that from you. After he left, Hallie burst in from the kitchen. The food magazine wants to do a feature. They're calling us the rising phoenix of the local food scene. Phoenix? Nash laughed. How appropriate. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Melanie's being charged with fraud. She's asking to see you. You don't have to go, Hallie said, reading over my shoulder. Actually, I do. At the police station, Melanie sat in an interview room, her designer outfit replaced by simple street clothes. She looked defeated. I lost everything, she said as I sat down. The cafe, my savings, my reputation. You lost those things when you decided to steal instead of create. I know. She wiped her eyes. I watched you growing up, so passionate about cooking, so talented. I thought, I thought I could just take what you had, that it would be enough. Success doesn't work that way. I see that now. She managed a weak smile. Your mother says your cafe is always full. It is. Good. She nodded slowly. At least one of us got it right. As I left the station, my phone lit up with another review notification. Our little cafe was being hailed as the next big thing in the city's food scene. But more importantly, it was being celebrated for what it truly was: authentic, original, and earned. Table 7 wants to thank the chef, Hallie called out as I finished plating a perfect risotto. Again. I wiped my hands and headed into the dining room, now warm with evening light and happy conversation. At table 7, an elderly couple beamed at me. This risotto, the woman said, reminds me of a little place we used to visit in Italy. We've been searching for something like it for years. Before I could respond, Nash appeared at my elbow. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone asking for you at the bar. I turned to find Jarrett sitting there, red notebook conspicuously absent. No review today, he said, noting my glance. Just dinner, and perhaps some advice. Advice? He gestured to the seat beside him. I've been offered a position as head judge on a new cooking competition show. They want recommendations for contestants. He smiled. Interested? I can't leave the cafe. It's 2 weeks of filming, he said. Hallie and Nash could handle things here. Think about it. National exposure for your recipes, your techniques, the right way this time. A commotion at the door drew my attention. My mother stood there, helping Melanie through the doorway. My aunt looked different, humbler, wearing simple clothes, her flashy jewelry gone. Aurora, my mother called softly, your aunt has something to say. The cafe hushed as Melanie approached the bar. She pulled out an envelope with shaking hands. This is everything, she said. The contact information for all my former investors, admission of what I did, and a public apology I've already sent to every food blog and newspaper in the city. Why now? Because you won, she said simply. Not just the cafe war, but the right way to live. I start community service next week, teaching cooking classes at the women's shelter. She managed a small smile. Using my own recipes this time. Jarrett raised his glass. To learning from our mistakes. And to making new opportunities, Nash added, sliding a contract across the bar. The TV show agreement. I looked around my cafe, at the happy customers, at Hallie expertly managing the kitchen, at Nash charming the guests, at my aunt finally finding her own path. This was what real success felt like. I'll do the show, I said, but first, let me make you all my newest dish. I've been experimenting with a black truffle and wild mushroom ravioli. Always creating, Melanie said softly. That's what I should have learned from you years ago. As I headed back to the kitchen, the warmth of conversation resumed. Through the window, I could see the line forming outside for dinner service. My phone buzzed with another glowing review, but I didn't need to read it. I already had everything I'd ever wanted, a kitchen of my own, and the freedom to create what I loved. The rest was just garnish.